Hello viewers, welcome to a new episode of Ideology and Ideological State Apparatus. We have with us Ms. Srijay Bhattacharjee, who was a faculty of ILEAD. Welcome ma'am.
Thank you, thank you.
I am Shantanu Mukherjee, a student of Media Science in ILEAD. Tell us ma'am, how does Louis Althusser introduce the concept of ideology in the field of mass media?
Louis Althusser is a neo-Marxist philosopher, and in this essay, he largely spoke about that the capitalist class or any powerful hegemonic class, in order to maintain state power, in order to hold state power and maintain it, uses two apparatuses. One is the repressive state apparatuses, which acts by the deployment of force, and that is very physical, material, which you can see, like this, like the police, the army, the courts, and the other is the ideological state apparatuses. These apparatuses, which is constituted of, say, church, family, school, then the communicative devices like the media, the culture, like the newspapers, magazines that we all read. Now, these apparatuses work by the deployment of ideology. Now, their effect is much more far-reaching because it traps your unconscious. That acts with your consciousness, and it seeps into your consciousness that if you accept the powerful, the power of the hegemonic capitalist class, then it will be for your benevolence.
Okay.
So, you know, the ideological state apparatuses acts in a much more covered way. Okay, it acts as if it has been camouflaged with something that in your everyday practices, you not only fail to understand that what is the real power of play actually happening behind the scene, but you start desiring them. You start accepting that, okay, this is for my good, this is for my benevolence, that I will be in a better of position, and you start desiring the hegemony or the power.
Okay.
So, you know, it is far more engaging, far more far-reaching because it traps your consciousness. It acts through your consciousness. So, through your ideology, through your consciousness, it seeps into yourself, into your senses that you have to accept this power because this power is benevolent for you. It is essential for you. Okay.
Okay.
So, how this ideological state apparatus works by what? By through ideology. So first we have to understand, because Althusser gives a much more time in explaining and theorizing what is ideology per se. Firstly, he says that actually ideology has no history. It is based upon history, but it has no history of its own.
Okay.
Before Freud, you know, all the philosophers used to say, but used to think, even Marx in his writing, he mentioned or he theorized ideology to be like this, that it is like a dream. What is a dream? The dream is like a residue of your day's experiences, which is, you know, just sorted out arbitrarily. It is not, you know, arranged in a proper manner, but it is just, you know, unstructured way. If you just jumble it up, what forms the residue of it, of all your experiences, is a dream.
Okay.
Right? So, ideology is like that, you know, metaphysical thing, which is the arbitrarily structured residue of all your material experiences of life. So, all your material experiences of life, if you just jumble it up, very unstructured way, that is what is ideology. But Althusser says that you should not theorize ideology in this manner. This is a negative approach to the concept of ideology. What he actually says is, like, he rather likes to term or likes to relate ideology to the concept of an unconscious. What Freud says. Unconscious is not a residue of something. Unconscious is like a pale, it's omnipresent, it's present everywhere. Right?
Okay.
It's just there in everything. So, rather, Althusser tries to say that it is not based on a particular material history, but it's over everything, and therefore it does not have its own material history, though it is based on some history. But it does not, ideology per se does not have any history of its own. So rather it is to say that you can theorize ideology not with a dream, but with the concept of unconsciousness, which is omnipresent, which is meta-present, which is there everywhere. Okay. So
and because it is there everywhere, we do not have a history of it.
A material history to it. You cannot define it to a time frame.
Okay.
Right. Secondly, he says that whenever you talk about ideology, actually what you have in your mind is a negative approach to it. That is, you consider it is ideological. That is, you do not consider it to be a perception of your truth.
Yes.
Right. For example, believe in something very good, very ideological. You consider, okay, that's not my reality, but I have to be like that. I have to achieve that state. So that is not your reality.
Yes.
So what you actually do is you, put up a relation to your actual conditions of existence with that which can be your conditions of existence. Now, Althusser again puts up a question that why people would want to do that. Right. So he says, he theorizes in this way, that actually what people does is they put up an imaginary relationship of themselves to the conditions of existence that they have. For example, let me just give you an example. Say, for instance, you have a nation state. And what is the basic criteria of nation state? Say, for example, if you consider to be you as a probable citizen of that nation state, then the nation state must give you your freedom of expression, your right to live, your right to livelihood, your right to the basic rights that a citizen enjoys in a nation state.
Yes.
And this nation state is bound to give you all those rights.
Absolutely.
Right? So your conditions of existence, what are your conditions of existence, is to get all these rights and live very happily and prosperously into that nation state. So these are your conditions of existence. Okay. Now, if you consider an ideology, for example, say like patriotism. You love your country. You have to love your country.
Yes.
Now, if the nation state seeps in this ideology into you, then what will you think? That even if the relationship between you and your conditions of existence, that might be positive or negative, that is, your state may give you all the rights that you should enjoy or does not give all the rights that you should enjoy.
Okay.
So this is the relationship of you
Yes.
with the conditions of existence. But if you're a patriotic person, if you believe in patriotism, then what you will do, you will employ an imaginary relation of you with that conditions of existence. That is, you will think that my state gives me all this. So your relation to the conditions of existence will always be patriotic. And if you are patriotic, then the nation state can demand anything from you. It might demand your life. You can die for your country, right? So what actually ideology does is, according to Althusser, that it all the people in an ideology actually produce an imaginary relationship of themselves to their real conditions of existence.
Okay. They're basically hypnotizing us of sorts.
Actually, ideological state apparatus is what they actually do. They actually, through everyday practices, like the films you see, like the musics you hear, the food you eat, the people you talk to, the heroes or heroines or the political heroes that you admire, you think that that is the real world. You never criticize or you never question that whether that is actually my reality.
True.
So, ideology seeps into your consciousness and it gives you that camouflage that, well, fine, this is the world that is made for me. And I want to live in that world. So you never, your consciousness, your critical faculty of your brain has been blocked. It's been hypnotized by this ideology. And you stop criticizing this, the world that has been constructed for you. All the cultural symbols, if you just thoroughly examine, you can see that all the cultural symbols that has been around you is actually made to be like that. It makes you happy.
Okay, attractive,
and you feel that you are very, comfortable there. So you stop criticizing or stop examining, or all your critical faculty of the brain has been stopped.
Okay.
Right. So that is what is also an function of ideology. What it does is that whoever is within an ideology, they set up an imaginary relationship of themselves to the real conditions of existence.
Okay.
Thirdly, he says, this is a positive proposition that Althusser gives, that ideology has a material existence, though it does not have a material time history, but it has a material existence. How? He says that ideology resides in where? In human mind, in human consciousness. Who is a subject? Who is a material?
Absolutely.
Right? So it has to have a material existence.
Like
because the human.
Okay. I see.
You are a subject, you have your beliefs, you have your concept of truths, you have your beliefs, disbeliefs, you have your likings, not likings. So, you are a subject. Maybe the subject has been constructed by a lot of things, but you are a subject.
Yes.
And within your belief, the ideology resides.
So I am the one who is materialistic, basically.
Through its beliefs, through its practices, through its senses, consciousness. Okay, the human being as it is, that is the constructive or the residual place of an ideology. So ideology must have a material existence.
Okay.
Next he says that ideology has a concrete function of creating individuals as concrete subjects. And ideology never accepts this function. It never accepts that, any person you can't say that he will say that I am ideological. So what it does is, it creates each individual as particular subjects. For example, he gives a very good example by which you can see that, for example, you're moving in a marketplace and then you meet a person, suppose you meet me. And then what you're going to do, you're going to say, hello ma'am, I'm going to say hello. And then we just part apart.
Yeah.
We never try to question that why did we behave in this way? Who told us that these are the rituals that we have to follow?
Courtesy, small talks.
Courtesy,
why do we
small
do this?
talks. Why do we do this? Because we've been told to do this, or just believe that this is the way that we have been brought up. So we are already subjects to some thoughts, some beliefs, some sorts of the ways that we are. In order to live in a civilized society. Now you can say that what is that civilized society? Who created it? It has also been constructed. It has been created, right?
Yes.
And that is also through some norms, through some power logistics maybe.
Who knows? Yes.
Who knows? Because the way we shake our hand, even that has a history.
Yes.
That has been created because someone wanted it to do it, and that also has a power logistics of its own. So that's what I was talking to you, telling you, that every cultural symbols that is around you, that has been constructed, and you never know it. So this is the ideology. If you say that this is the ideology of a civilized world, that it's my courtesy to greet ma'am like this whenever I meet her in the streets. So you never, if you're in that ideology of a courtesy of meeting a new person, you don't even question or you don't even criticize that why am I behaving like this, right?
True.
So that is also another function of ideology, which employs certain individuals from among the crowds and employs individuals as subjects. They are subject to different things, to different ideologies per se, and you never know that what the other person, that is the powerful, is actually employing that ideology to make that subject. Maybe I am making you a subject to sell an educated gesture. This is you can say, an English colonial practice that I want to deploy.
Okay.
So that is, you are a subject to that.
Yes.
So it's not only one kind of subject or one kind of some sorts of obedience, but it's a kind of the powerful extracts an obedience from the other, because that is the relations of production, the oppressed and the oppressed, that they share, and in order to reproduce these relations of productions, you have to employ ideology.
That is how a society functions, basically.
That is how actually the power remains.
Okay.
Because once this relation has been toppled, something else you're going to see. So if this relation has to be maintained, you have to maintain this, and you have to, so the function, one of the major function of ideologies is it creates subjects among individuals. So it is not an individual, but a subject. Subject, you understand the difference between an individual and a subject. Althusser first proposition says that how does ideology does this? This is a very interesting thing that Althusser has given an example, and he mentions it. And he says that Althusser says that ideology hails or interpellates, use the terms interpellates. What is the meaning of interpellates? Interpellating is calling, hey, you there. So this is the function by which, Althusser actually calls an individual from among the masses, and the individual knows that the call is for me.
Addressing someone directly. How does that help?
Let me just give you an example. The example first that Althusser gives in this essay. He says, for example, say a crowd is moving in the street, and a traffic police calls out, "Hey, you there." Any person who just turns around 180 degree, that moment he knows that the hail was for him. And that moment he becomes a subject. I'll just give you this example, that this function of interpellating or hailing, you can find out in our media studies very well. If you examine how does the advertisements work, the TVCs that we continuously see. Once I found out in a TVC of a beauty soap. The story was like this, that a young, very energetic young girl in her early 30s, she was being very much praised and appreciated for her flamboyant look and flamboyant and very energetic character by her superiors, that is her boss and her office colleagues. And the second shot shows that she comes back and one little daughter, her one young girl, just hugs her and greets her. So, and then the TVC says that this flamboyant look is because I used this beauty soap. So that was the advertisement of a beauty soap that went by. Now you can see that there are no other characters. What are the characters? Office colleague, one young, energetic, young, in her early 30s woman, her only daughter.
Yes.
So you can very well assess that who are the target audiences. The target audiences are young, single mothers, maybe, because no other family members have been shown there.
Okay. Yes.
So whoever in her young 30s, like if I see that ad, I will be very much attracted because maybe that the advertisement was for me. So the world that has been shown in the TV, that is a constructed world, and I should be that in that. I should use that product. So that is how the advertisement actually hailed me, and I responded. I became a subject to that.
Okay.
The next day I'll go to the shop and I will buy that product because I found out that the product was for me. Okay. It was hailed to me, and I became the subject. So you can say the commercialism, rather the consumerism. This is also a sort of an ideology, and that has been propagated through everything, all the cultural symbols that is around you. Now, the functions of ideology, of interpellating or hailing an individual, you can see that is very well understood through the advertisements, if you just follow.
Okay. So mass media is used nowadays to propagate ideologies. What was the earlier methods?
The earlier methods, as Althusser, if you just read the whole essay, he said that the most important ideological state apparatuses was the family and the school, this couple.
Okay.
First was the church and the family. Then later in the early capitalist societies became the school and the family. Because you are a subject before you're born. Because once you are about to born, it has been decided that in what society you are going to get born.
True.
Right? What name you are going to bear, what role are you going to perform, what status of the society you are going to come in. Right?
Yes.
So that's what Althusser says, that the hail or interpolation of any concrete individuals as concrete subjects even occurs before he or she is born.
True.
Like the family works in that way. And then you move on to school. School is like a machine, and it just generates all the individuals into concrete subjects, because from then only you learn that whether you will be a laborer or the oppressor or the employer, or you are going to go to the philosophical cadre. So, the family and the school are the most important ideological state apparatuses that worked. That was the most influential work before. But now in this state, the other things that are coming into relevance is mostly the mass media. The media. Because from there, this hailing or interpellation actually works very hard. Right.
True.
Althusserian concept of ideology, these are the 4 propositions by which, Althusser explained or theorized what is ideology per se and how does ideology works. in deploying concrete individuals into concrete subjects and thereby seeping into the consciousness that you have to accept the obedience of the powerful because that is for your benevolence. That is for your good. Right? That is
absolutely.
This way, actually, the ideological state apparatuses work, and the ideology has been seeped into your mind.
We like to be oppressed, basically.
Actually, we desired them. Okay, we started desiring that. We think when we lose our critical thing, and then we start desiring, and we think that okay, fine, if that is good, if I am good, who cares? So this is one part of, you can see the thing by which media works. Another section by which is the films. If you consider the history of films, the melodrama genre of storytelling, that it creates a constructed reality of around you.
It does, yes.
Right? And you stop believing that whether that constructed reality that has been shown into that into the film, into the storytelling that you of the film that you're watching is actually your real world or not. Like if you just go on watching the current Bollywood movies, I mean, they speak of a reality and you hardly stop imagining that whether that reality is not my reality. You start believing that I can relate to that world. The class of people that has been shown in you, forget that there are other class of peoples or there are other economic statuses which actually is around you. You feel that glossy, beautiful looking, good pictures that you're being shown is actually the world for you, is actually the world around you. You forget that there are also shabby walls, there are also shabby slums that is just beside you, because that has never been portrayed in the films that you watch. So, you know, there are various film movements which tried to, capture this, and they had started anti-realist and more self-reflexive cinemas.
Okay.
Like you have the Nouvelle Vague, like you have the anti-avant-garde movements, film movements that we have. Now, these are mostly to negate the
this Hollywood system of
rather the melodrama system genre of filmmaking and anti-realist movies, so that the reality that has been shown in the films is actually what it does. It employs the individual as concrete subjects, and it doesn't help them to criticize the world. It shows a false world around you. We can also conclude by, you can ask that what is the present status of Althusser's conception of ideology and ideological state apparatuses here. Althusser's conception of ideology and ideological state apparatuses was very much well accepted. You know, it opened up new avenues of mass media studies in the cultural studies perimeter. But it also was being very much criticized by other, neo-Marxist scholars or post-modernist scholars, because post-structuralism came in, structuralists came in, and what they said that there can't be any one subject position. There are actually many subject positions, you know, because you are also, for example, me, when I watch a television series, I am a woman, I am a upper middle class woman, I am a educated woman, I am a Hindu. So, you know, these are the many and various other subject positions. There is not one subject position.
Okay,
so, you know, always there is a give and take that happens between what has been shown to me and what I accept. There is a negotiation that starts going. There is not one subject position that you always give me and I accept. No, I resist. I take some and give others.
Okay.
So these ideas were not being incorporated into Althusser's ideology and the ideological state apparatus.
Okay.
But even then, this essay of Althusser and Althusserian's ideological state apparatus acted to be a very important essay in the field of communication studies, in the field of mass media studies, because it opened up new avenues, new ways to criticize the mass media propagations that has been propagated, the ideas that has been propagated to the audiences through the media. Thank you.